May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Exodus chapter 9. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus saith our Father in heaven, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go, so that they may worship me. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, the hand of our Father in heaven will strike with a deadly pestilence your livestock in the field, the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the herds, and the flocks. But our Father in heaven will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites. Our Father in heaven set a time, saying, Tomorrow our Father will do this thing in the land. And on the next day our Father did so. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but of the livestock of the Israelites not one died. Pharaoh inquired and found that not one of the livestock of the Israelites was dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the people go. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses and Aaron, Take handfuls of soot from the kiln, and let Moses throw it in the air in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become fine dust all over the land of Egypt, and shall cause festering boils on humans and animals throughout the whole land of Egypt. So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air, and it caused festering boils on humans and animals. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils afflicted the magicians as well as all the Egyptians. But our Father in heaven hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not listen to them, just as our Father had spoken to Moses. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and present yourself before Pharaoh, and say to him, Thus says our Father in heaven, the God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, so that they may worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon you yourself, and upon your officials, and upon your people, so that you may know that there is no one like me in all of the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But this is why I have let you live, to show my power, and to make my name resound through all the earth. You are still exalting yourself against my people, and will not let them go. Tomorrow at this time I will cause the heaviest hail to fall that has ever fallen in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Send, therefore, and have your livestock and everything that you have in the open field brought to a secure place. Every human or animal that is in the open field is not brought under shelter will die when the hail comes down upon them. Those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of our Father in heaven hurried their slaves and livestock off to a secure place. Those who did not regard the word of our Father in heaven left their slaves and livestock in the open field. Our Father in heaven said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, so that hail may fall on the whole land of Egypt, on humans and animals, and all the plants of the field in the land of Egypt. Then Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and our Father in heaven sent thunder and hail, and fire came down on the earth. And our Father rained hail on the land of Egypt. There was hail with fire flashing continually in the midst of it, such heavy hail as have never fallen in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. The hail struck down everything that was in the open field throughout all the land of Egypt, both human and animal. The hail also struck down all the plants of the field and shattered every tree in the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said to them, This time I have sinned. Our Father in heaven is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to our Father in heaven. Enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You need stay no longer. Moses said to him, As soon as I have gone out of the city, I will stretch out my hands to our Father in heaven. The thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail, so that you may know that the earth is our Father's. But as for you and your officials, I know that you do not yet fear our Father in heaven. Now the flax and the barley were ruined, for the barley was in the ear and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not ruined, for they are late in coming up. So Moses left Pharaoh, went out of the city, and stretched out his hands to our father. Then the thunder and the hail ceased, and the rain no longer poured down on the earth. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he sinned once more and hardened his heart, he and his officials. So the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as our Father in heaven had spoken through Moses. Chapter 10. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his officials, in order that I may show these signs of mine among them, and that you may tell your children and your grandchildren how I have made fools of the Egyptians and what signs I have done among them, so that you may know that I am your Father in heaven. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, Thus says our Father in heaven, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourselves before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. For if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country. They shall cover the surface of the land, so that no one will be able to see the land. They shall devour the last remnant left you after the hail, and they shall devour every tree of yours that grows in the field. They shall fill your houses and the houses of all your officials and of all the Egyptians, something that neither your parents nor your grandparents have seen from the day they came on earth to this day. Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials said to him, How long shall this fellow be a snare to us? Let the people go, so that they may worship their Father in heaven, their God. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, worship your Father in heaven, your God. But which ones are to go? Moses said, We will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and daughters, and with our flocks and herds, because we have a festival to our Father in heaven, and we must celebrate. He said to them, Our Father in heaven indeed will be with you, if I ever let your little ones go with you. Plainly, you have some evil purpose in your mind. No, never. Your men may go and worship your Father in heaven, for that is what you are asking. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt, so that the locusts may come upon it and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and our Father in heaven brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When morning came, the east wind had brought the locust. The locust came upon all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. Such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been before, nor ever shall be again. They covered the surface of the whole land, so that the land was black, and they ate all the plants in the land and all the fruit trees that the hail had left. Nothing green was left, no tree, no plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurriedly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against your Father in heaven, your God, and against you. Do forgive my sin just this once, and pray to your Father in heaven, your God, that at least he remove this deadly thing from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven changed the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But our Father in heaven hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was dense darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. People could not see one another, and for 3 days they could not move from where they were. But all the Israelites had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, Go, worship your Father in heaven. Only your flocks and your herds shall remain behind. Even your children may go with you. But Moses said, You must also let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings to sacrifice to our Father in heaven, our God. Our livestock also must go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind. For we must choose some of them for the worship of our Father in heaven, our God. And we will not know what to use to worship our Father in heaven until we arrive there. But our Father in heaven hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was unwilling to let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, Get away from me. Take care that you do not see my face again. For on the day you see my face, you shall die. Moses said, Just as you say, I will never see your face again. Chapter 11. Our Father in heaven said to Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards, he will let you go from here. Indeed, when he lets you go, he will drive you away. Tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor and every woman is to ask her neighbor for objects of silver and gold. Our Father in heaven gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, Moses himself was a man of great importance in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's officials and in the sight of the people. Moses said, Thus says our Father in heaven, about midnight, I will go out through Egypt. Every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne to the firstborn of the female slave who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Then there will be a loud cry throughout the whole land of Egypt, such as never been or will ever be again. But not a dog shall growl at any of the Israelites, not at my people, not at animals, so that you may know that our Father in heaven makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. Then all these officials of yours shall come down to me and bow low to me, saying, Leave us, you and all the people who follow you. After that, I will leave. And in hot anger, he left Pharaoh. Our Father in heaven said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, in order that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron performed all these wonders before Pharaoh, but our Father in heaven hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go out of his land. Chapter 12. Our Father in heaven said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, This month shall mark for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell the whole congregation of Israel that on the 10th of this month they are to take a lamb for each family, a lamb for each household. If a household is too small for a whole lamb, it shall join its closest neighbor in obtaining one. The lamb shall be divided in proportion to the number of people who eat of it. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a year-old male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of this month. Then the whole assembled congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. They shall eat the lamb that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted over the fire with its head, legs, and inner organs. You shall not let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. This is how you shall eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it hurriedly. It is the Passover of your Father in heaven. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals. On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am your Father in heaven. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a day of remembrance for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival to your Father in heaven. Throughout your generations you shall observe it as a perpetual ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses, for whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day you shall hold a solemn assembly, and on the 7th day a solemn assembly. No work shall be done on those days, only what everyone must eat. That alone may be prepared by you. You shall observe the festival of unleavened bread, for on this very day I brought your companies out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe this day throughout your generations as a perpetual ordinance. In the first month, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day, you shall eat unleavened bread. For 7 days no leaven shall be found in your houses. For whoever eats what is leavened shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether an alien or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your settlements you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called all the elders of Israel and said to them, Go, select lambs for your families, and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and touch the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood in the basin. None of you shall go outside the door of your house until morning, for our Father in heaven will pass through to strike down the Egyptians. When he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, our Father in heaven will pass over that door and will not allow the destroyer to enter your houses to strike you. You shall observe this rite as a perpetual ordinance for you and your children. When you come to the land that our Father in heaven will give you, as he has promised, you shall keep this observance. And when your children ask you, What do you mean by this observance? You shall say, It is the Passover sacrifice to our Father, for he has passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt, when he struck down the Egyptians, but spared our houses. And the people bowed down and worshiped. The Israelites went and did just as our Father in heaven had commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight, our Father in heaven struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh arose in the night, he and all his officials and all the Egyptians, and there was a loud cry in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. Then he summoned Moses and Aaron in the night and said, Rise up, go away from my people, both you and the Israelites. Go, worship your Father in heaven, as you said. Take your flocks and your herds, as you said, and be gone, and bring a blessing on me too. The Egyptians urged the people to hasten their departure from the land, for they said, We shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, with their kneading bowls wrapped up in their cloaks on their shoulders. The Israelites had done as Moses told them. They had asked the Egyptians for jewelry of silver and gold and for clothing. And our Father in heaven had given the people favor in the sight of Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. And so they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. A mixed crowd also went up with them, and livestock in great numbers, both flocks and herds. They baked unleavened cakes of the dough that they had brought out of Egypt. It was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. The time that the Israelites had lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the companies of our Father in heaven went out from the land of Egypt. That was for our Father in heaven a night of vigil, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. The same night is a vigil to be kept for our Father in heaven by all Israelites throughout their generations. Our Father in heaven said to Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance for the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it, but any slave who has been purchased may eat of it after he has been circumcised. No bound or hired servant may eat of it. It shall be eaten in one house. You shall not take any of the animal outside the house, and you shall not break any of its bones. The whole congregation of Israel shall celebrate it. If an alien who resides with you wants to celebrate the Passover of your Father in heaven, all his males shall be circumcised. Then he may draw near to celebrate it. He shall be regarded as a native of the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. There shall be one law for the native and for the alien who resides among you. All the Israelites did just as our Father in heaven had commanded Moses and Aaron. That very day, our Father in heaven brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, company by company. Chapter 13. Our Father in heaven said to Moses, consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whatever is the first to open the womb among the Israelites, of human beings and animals, is mine. Moses said to the people, remember this day on which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, because our Father in heaven brought you out from there by strength of hand. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today, in the month of Abib, you are going out. When our Father in heaven brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your ancestors to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this observance in the month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a festival to our Father in heaven. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen in your possession, and no leaven shall be seen among you in all your territory. You shall tell your child on that day, it is because of what our Father in heaven did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall serve for you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead, so that the teaching of our Father may be on your lips. For with a strong hand our Father in heaven brought you out of Egypt. You shall keep this ordinance at its proper time from year to year. When our Father in heaven has brought you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and has given it to you, you shall set apart to our Father in heaven all that opens the womb. All the firstborn of your livestock that are males shall be our Father's. But every firstborn donkey you shall redeem with a sheep. If you do not redeem it, you must break its neck. Every firstborn male among your children you shall redeem. When in the future your child asks you, what does this mean? You shall answer, by strength of hand our Father in heaven brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, our Father in heaven killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from human firstborn to the firstborn of animals. Therefore I sacrifice to our Father every male that first opens the womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall serve as a sign on your hand and as an emblem on your forehead, that by strength of hand our Father in heaven brought us out of Egypt. When Pharaoh let the people go, he did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near, for our Father in heaven thought, if the people face war, they may change their minds and return to Egypt. So our Father led the people by the roundabout way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt prepared for battle. And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had required a solemn oath of the Israelites, saying, our Father in heaven will surely take notice of you, and then you must carry my bones with you from here. They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. Our Father in heaven went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and by night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Father willing, we will continue with Exodus chapter 14. May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is near. Peace.